Welcome back. It's New Year's Day, but I didn't forget. It is a Wednesday, and it has been 2 weeks since I did a panic index. Now, I have not done a player power rankings. I didn't do that last Christmas, so that'll be next Wednesday. I'll do a player power rankings. I'll figure out whether I'm going to tackle forwards again, or goaltenders, or wade into that hornet's nest that is trying to rank defensemen. So on the board here, we have very happy, somewhat happy, concerned, panicked. Panicked is all the way up here because this is where I'm putting the fans that just want to burn the whole thing down. Just that's it. Team's done. We're out. And then down here you have the red phone for teams that are waiting for the draft lottery to find out where they're drafting because they're not overly concerned with the rest of the regular season. It's really not of consequence to them at this time. So I'm starting with Philly. Philly's a tough one. I'm going to put them under concerned. I'll put Philly under concerned. They win enough that I can't put them here. I can't really put them here, but they don't win enough that I can put them here. So right in that middle is right around where I think they belong. Ottawa, there's obviously some concern with Ullmark out, but it is hard not to have Ottawa as happy at this point. And I mean, fandom, media, and everything. Team's got a good record. They're above the playoff line. Obviously, Ullmark's injury is something that's going to put that concern on the radar, but the record's been good. Marilainen's been good. Sogard, not bad. So I think, well, Marilainen and Sogard, that's not a tandem you want long term. I don't think Forsberg's going to be out much longer, and so I think Ottawa's going to be fine. Winnipeg. I know they lost that game against Colorado last night, but Winnipeg's pretty good when it comes to the standings right now. Obviously, you want to win that game over Colorado, but they're, 7-2-1 in their last 10? I don't see any reason for any concern around Winnipeg of any sort. So I'm going to put Winnipeg there. And you'll notice that it's one team from each division so far. That's how I set this up. The LA Kings, what is there to say about the Kings right now? They are absolutely rolling. They are a wagon at home, and they're pretty good on the road, too. So there isn't really anywhere else you're going to play them. The LA Kings are doing a very good job this year of building a really, really strong... they've got a really good work ethic, and they've built a really strong record, and I see no reason why that should change in the second half of the season. But we shall see, which also reminds me I'm going to be doing the grading of teams at the half, so get ready to argue with me on that one. The Oilers... Do the Oilers belong in the top row as well? Feels like it. It does. The Oilers, it has been a really good run for them over the last month or so. They got off to that kind of slow start, which compared to the previous year was not a problem. And they pulled out of it pretty quickly, too. So the Edmonton Oilers are firing in all cylinders. McDavid looks like McDavid. Draisaitl looks like a world beater again. So not that we're going to see him in Four Nations, but that's a whole other debate for a whole other time. Why would you want Draisaitl? Why would you want Draisaitl in a tournament of best on best? Why would you want that? Anyways, the Oilers at the top of the board. Chicago right next to the phone. Chicago Blackhawks have had some success recently. The good news for Chicago being that Connor Bedard's been playing better lately. Or, you know what? I take that back. It's not that he's played better, he's had better luck, and he started to get points. I think Bedard's played well through a lot of this struggle that has been probably overblown a little bit, and I think the Chicago Blackhawks are in good shape for their development of the player, not necessarily affecting their playoff hopes at all. Detroit, they changed their coach, so no longer here, probably not here either. For Detroit, I'm going to put them here because they have had a couple of wins, but is it going to be something that long-term we're talking about? Are they going to be able to rack up a bunch of wins? I don't know that they will. I think that the Detroit Red Wings are still one of those teams that could very well get with a good second half, maybe up towards a playoff spot, but it's going to be tough. There's a lot of teams to get past to get to a playoff spot. Columbus, can't be panic for Columbus. They're 16-16-6, right? So I wouldn't put them next to the phone either. They're too close to the playoffs. Is it a happy face right now for them? I kind of feel like they belong here, which is the line. So when I used to do the power rankings, I'd have, up here, down here, and then I'd have teams over here. I've now streamlined it, changed it a little bit, but this is basically where that line was on uh, the old panic indexes. So for Columbus, they're moving up. It feels like they've moved up from here, and they're in this range here. And I don't know how many teams are going to be next to that phone. Not Carolina. Geez, do they belong on the line too? Can Carolina be argued to have panic right now? They are not. They're not playing like they normally do. They're not racking up points like they normally do, and this has been going on for a while. They're not going to be in this area because nobody's going to want to burn it down for Carolina. So is it just concern? I can't put them on the happy side. They lose too often for that. I can't put Carolina at panic. I can't put Carolina at panic. They're still above the playoff line. They've still got a good record. They're still getting points and wins here and there, just not as often as I think they'd like. Boston, I'm going to put Boston in the second row here. I have Boston still getting some points. They did struggle last night against Washington, but plenty of teams have done that this year, so I don't see that as any reason for concern. A little bit of concern for me with Boston with some of their scoring depth and production, but it's nothing major at this stage of the game. Once we get to the playoffs, that could change, but we're nowhere near the playoffs as of yet. So Boston, I'm going to put them on that second row at this point. St. Louis, they win the Winter Classic yesterday. And there was definitely a lot of talk during that broadcast about how St. Louis, they have a good GM and good coach and everything looks good there, which I'm not arguing against at all. I think the St. Louis Blues have good management and their team's structured pretty well. But I think they belong in that concern level too. Maybe concern is going to be where a lot of teams end up in this one. And this is a randomized order I've got them in. I just basically what I did to set this up, I put the 4 rows of divisions, and then I just went all the way across and grabbed one from each division. So there is no set order to this at all. And I'm already seeing a lot on the concern level. San Jose is here. The San Jose Sharks had a pretty good run there for a while, but now they've won 1 of their last 10, and they don't look good. I'm not sure what happened to San Jose, but over the last month, they've really reverted to some bad habits, and the results are showing it. They just don't have that. I think confidence might be a part of it. They've lost so many games by 1 goal, and so many times where they allow a goal late and they're not able to answer. It happens when you're in a rebuild. So San Jose at this point, I'm gonna just leave them down here. I don't think there's any reason for panic or anything. Celebrini's still playing well. Will Smith's playing well on occasion too, so no reason for panic there. Anaheim. With the recent play by Anaheim, I'm gonna put them up here. Absolutely. And you know what? I think Anaheim might be a team to keep an eye on in the second half of the season. All they need to do, because I think their defense and their goaltending have been good, not necessarily great overall, but good, right? And I'm talking the combination of the defense and the goaltending. The goaltending's been pretty good on most occasions. But if they can get some goal scoring, I think Anaheim could surprise some people. And the recent play, they've been getting victories here and there, and they're getting those victories here and there, I think, before they've really realized that offensive potential. And it could be anybody. It could be Leo Carlson. It could be Mason McTavish. Maybe Troy Terry can get on a run here. But there are a lot of players. Vetrano even, who had a really good season last year, has not produced the same this year. Maybe he has a really strong second half. But if somebody can really bolster that offense, I think Anaheim is a dark horse to not necessarily make the playoffs, but to kind of make things more difficult for the rest of the teams in the West and get themselves into the hunt. Nashville. Nashville's tough. Their overall standing means I should put them down next to the phone. I don't think the burning fire works for them. So Elmo and the fire here doesn't work. I'm not sure if it's panic either. I feel like Nashville belongs next to panic, but I could be persuaded that they don't belong next to panic. Uh, they win games here and there, and they look good for stretches of any game they play. They show you enough. That game against Minnesota last night, they had some good moments, but they don't put together that full 60 minutes, to use that cliche, that very, very common hockey cliche. And that's what's costing them, is that their errors are all ending up in the back of their net, and they're just not able to have that full 60 minutes. I do think that age and team speed are a problem as well, but yeah, so I'm going to leave them next to Panic. Okay, Buffalo, last time out I had them here. I'm pretty sure I had them in the everything's on fire. But they won those 3 in a row. Is everything still on fire in Buffalo? I'm gonna leave them here. I'm gonna leave them here because 3 wins in a row, even though that's kind of fun to see because they'd lost 13 in a row before that, but that means they've lost 14 of their last 18. So it's difficult for me to move them up. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's panic, because Buffalo fans generally still want to see the GM gone, the ownership gone, and there's some players they really like to see the team move on from too. So, yeah, I will leave Buffalo where they were. Pittsburgh, not too long ago I had Pittsburgh here. I think Pittsburgh belongs here. Yeah, there's going to probably end up being a lot of concern here. The Pittsburgh Penguins last night against Detroit's a good example of how the Penguins are keeping themselves in the mix, but they're shooting themselves in the foot too often to get above the playoff line. This is a Pittsburgh team that I think can string wins together and can get above the playoff line, but I don't know that they're going to, and I'm not sure how you fix that. But they're close enough to the playoff line that I can't have them in panic or next to the, let's burn everything down. Rangers are here. There is no argument to be made for why the Rangers would be in panic, because Ranger fans are beyond panic and they're into rage. The funny thing is, I did see a comment with the last panic index I did where somebody said, "We're not panicked with the Rangers. We're angry." Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I had the Rangers last time too. So, yep. The New York Rangers are a team that should be better than their record. While we can talk about their 5-on-5 play, and how it wasn't great last year, the team wasn't this bad. This is an absolute embarrassment, and it's all over. I've seen a lot of complaints about Shesterkin. However, Quick's numbers have started to really tumble recently too. So, yeah, it's the blue line. That blue line in front of them just is not good enough. And I've lost track of how many times I've seen a goal go in their net on turnovers, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, and just straight from the slot. Really, really high danger chances. And the Rangers are doing a really poor job of protecting the net, and it's costing them a lot of points. And I think now I really don't see the Rangers as a playoff team this year. I'm really glad I didn't pick them for the Stanley Cup, because if I had, it's my fault. Florida, I'm going to put Florida up here. Now, the shutouts are concerning, but Florida's still winning enough games to stay pretty high on my power rankings board. Wouldn't it be funny if I did the panic index every Saturday just to see if anybody noticed, and did this as the power rankings every 2 weeks? Anyways, Florida at the top of the board. I think the Florida Panthers, no reason to panic right now, but the shutouts are concerning. There's definitely some reason to look at those shutouts and wonder about where this team's at right now, but they should be fine. Utah, man, they're going on the concern row too, aren't they? Because they've struggled recently. They're all of a sudden, the goal scoring with Utah, it's like the tides. It comes and it goes and it's back and it's gone. And right now, the tide is out on their offense. So I'm going to stick them right on that same line, where there's a lot of teams that I believe right now there is definitely some reason for concern. The Vegas Golden Knights, that loss against Montreal is not a reason for concern. If I can't say it's a reason for concern for the Panthers, I certainly cannot say it's a reason for concern for the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal this year. And yeah, they blew the 2-goal lead against Montreal, but they've still got an excellent home record. They've got a pretty good road record. And just their overall points total is impressive. The Vegas Golden Knights were not expected to be this good this year, but they are. Vancouver has to be panic. Whether it's all the gossip and all the rumors that are going around, or the fact that Quinn Hughes is out for weeks. Pettersson's out for at least a week in all likelihood. There is definitely a lot of reason to be worried about the Vancouver Canucks, who have now fallen below the playoff line, and that might just be where they end up being for the rest of this season, unless they can start winning games a little more regularly, especially at home. They've won 3 of their last 11. The Vancouver Canucks, I think there's real good reason for panic in Vancouver. Colorado, yeah, they're at the top. They've won 8 of their last 10. No reason for any kind of concern around the Colorado Avalanche. And on Saturday, when the power rankings come out, I think Avs fans are probably going to be pretty happy with where the Avs stand, because their wins have definitely been impressive. And last night's win over Winnipeg, which Jets fans will point out was, the Jets are tired, but still, the Avs get that 5-2 win. It was an impressive win at home for an Avalanche team that kind of needed that. Tampa Bay. Top row for Tampa? Is it top row for Tampa? Aren't they 7-3 in their last 10? I'm going to cheat and I'm going to look at the preview board. Yeah, they're 7-3 in their last 10. I don't see any reason not to have Tampa Bay in the top row. Yeah, I'm being generous this week. What can I say? The Tampa Bay Lightning playing strong hockey. Jake Gensel's been quite good for them. That's obviously the player everybody was watching, because he essentially replaces Stamkos in the lineup and plays that role. He's done really well. And, of course, Stamkos in Nashville has been a bit more of an issue. I do think if Stamkos had stayed in Tampa, he would still be getting goals, because he'd still be playing with Kucherov. But I think the move to Guentzel has actually aged pretty well for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Washington, I'm going to put Washington in the second row here. I still don't see any reason why there's concerns, but they've lost some games here and there recently. It's going to happen during an 82-game schedule. It's not a big deal to put a team in the second row. But, Washington, I can honestly say that, I'm not going to put them at the very top, but there's not really any reason for concern as of yet. Seattle, right smack dab in, it's not the middle. The middle would be here. But, yeah, Seattle, reason for concern, sure. They've won their last 2 games. I'm not going to put them as panicked. I'm not going to put them as set everything on fire. And certainly not going to put them as waiting for the phone to ring to find out whether or not they won the draft lottery. So Seattle ends up in the second row. Dallas, or third row for Seattle. Dallas is in the second row. It's difficult for me to say there's any reason for panic with Dallas. I think the reason that I'm mildly happy with Dallas is that they're getting points, they're getting wins, their points percentage is good, and this is while a lot of their star players are struggling to get the puck in the net, which you have to think as the season goes along should improve. So I do think Dallas is going to improve in the second half of the season. I certainly hope so, because somebody picked them to win the Stanley Cup, so they've got to at least make the playoffs, right? Montreal. I'm going to put Montreal here. Not at the top as of yet. It's been an impressive winning streak, and as I mentioned in the Montreal video I did today, they've won 6 of their last 7, but I will put Montreal in the second row rather than the top row, just as for now. And if 2 weeks from now they're still winning at this same rate, they will be in the top row. So they go from, I think they were down here last time out, and they're all the way up there. So that's a pretty good climb. The Islanders, I'm going to put them next to panic. I think that with Patrick Roy behind the bench, I think, the coaching is solid, but the rest of the team, it's a work in progress. Sorokin's still one of the better goaltenders in the National Hockey League. I think there's really good players with the Islanders. I'm not sure that they have a team that can really stay in the hunt for a playoff spot, and they're sitting below 500 as of now, so their odds are getting worse because there are a lot of teams between them and the playoffs at this point. So I'll put them next to panicked. Calgary, got to be happy. They're above the playoff line. It's January 1st. No one expected Calgary to be above the playoff line. And I remember, 5-6 games into the season when they got off to the hot start, there was talk, from some I saw in hockey media about, the Flames are off to a good start, but that's not going to last. Craig Conroy doesn't have any interest in playoffs this year. Well, the Flames do. The players do. And that's the thing. A GM can go out there and, I'm not going to make any additions this summer. We'll just go with what we have. Sometimes that works out just fine, even if it's not a playoff team. And for Calgary, they don't have any distractions this year. There's no, this guy's leaving for more money conversation. So the Flames are doing all right. Minnesota, I'm going to put them next to concerned. There's a lot of injuries. They've had losses piling up for them as well recently. Yes, they did beat Nashville last night, but Nashville's in the panic area. So for Minnesota, they do need to win a little more regularly. This is a good example of how teams getting those wins in October and November can really help them later in the season because they have that cushion to stay above the playoff line when they go through struggles like the Minnesota Wild are right now. They don't have to dig their way out of a mess, which is what teams that start slowly in October end up having to do. Toronto. All right, I'm going to put Toronto at the top. I'm going to say why. So when I do panic indexes, Toronto, I know that there's a lot of Toronto fans. And apparently if I put Toronto here, which is where I put them last time out, there's a lot of, why would there be any panic in Toronto? There isn't. But yeah, Toronto's playing pretty well. They've been 2-3 without Matthews this time around. I would probably put them here, but sure. For this week, for its New Year's, and maybe I'm feeling a little bit of that old Christmas spirit from a week ago. Toronto, you can be in the top row this week, even though the top row does not signify the same thing as power rankings at all. But hey, it's kind of a fun video that I do. New Jersey. I'm gonna put New Jersey here. I don't see any reason for necessarily a lot of concern for New Jersey, but I'm not going to put them at the top either. There's been enough losses recently that I could understand there being a little bit of a damper on the happiness in New Jersey land amongst New Jersey fans. So, yeah, just 2 down here, 3 in the panic area, and just 2 that I have waiting for the phone. Meaning that right now there aren't very many teams that are actually completely out of the hunt for a playoff spot, which means that right now, if the trade deadline was today, you probably wouldn't have as many sellers. Some of these teams would still be sellers if the trade deadline was today. It'd be a terrible day for New Year's Day to have the trade deadline. But I'm just saying that these 2 teams to me are definitely, that's it. Chicago and San Jose, I think their seasons, yeah, it's we're into better luck next year territory, which of course is a Happy Gilmore quote. So there you go. Panic Index for another week. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you haven't already. I only do the Panic Index every other week because I feel like from one week to the next, things aren't going to change very much. With power rankings, they can. But with this, every other week, I think works. So that's why I have the schedule I do. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.